For thousands of years, human flight belonged to mythology rather than engineering. The ancient Greeks imagined Icarus rising toward the sun on wings of wax and feathers. Renaissance thinkers like Leonardo da Vinci filled notebooks with elegant machines that could never quite leave the ground. And across centuries, inventors climbed towers convinced that determination alone might overcome gravity. Every generation believed it stood on the edge of success, and every generation fell back to earth. By the end of the 19th century, serious scientists had grown cautious. Many concluded that powered human flight was still decades away, perhaps even centuries. And yet, in December 1903, two bicycle mechanics from Ohio quietly solved one of the greatest engineering challenges in human history, without university degrees, without government funding, without laboratories, and without institutional backing, armed only with curiosity, persistence, and a suspicion that everyone else had misunderstood the real problem. This is not merely a story about invention. It is the story of how underdogs defeated the establishment and how modern aviation emerged not from the most powerful scientific institution in America, but from a small workshop that few people thought was worth noticing. At the dawn of the 20th century, if Americans had been asked who would conquer the air, almost everyone would have given the same answer: Samuel Langley. Langley was no outsider tinkering in obscurity. He was secretary of the Smithsonian Institution, an organization which was effectively the public face of American science. He was an accomplished astronomer, inventor, and celebrated intellectual whose reputation carried enormous authority. The United States government trusted him enough to grant $50,000 for the construction of a flying machine, an extraordinary investment at the time, equivalent to millions today. Newspapers documented his progress closely. Politicians anticipated a national triumph, and the public largely assumed success was inevitable. Langley had already demonstrated powered flight using small, unmanned models that flew successfully over the Potomac River years earlier, convincing many observers that the remaining challenge was simply one of scale. His reasoning appeared straightforward. If small powered machines could fly, then a larger version with a stronger engine should carry a human pilot. Flight, in Langley's view, was fundamentally a problem of power. Build large enough, move fast enough, and physics would cooperate. It was logical, elegant, and widely accepted, yet deeply mistaken. Nearly 500 miles away in Dayton, Ohio, lived two men no committee would have selected for such a monumental task. Wilbur and Orville Wright operated a modest bicycle shop, spending their days repairing chains, aligning wheels, and selling bicycles to ordinary customers. At first glance, nothing about their profession suggested aviation breakthroughs. Yet bicycles quietly taught them something most experts overlooked. A bicycle is inherently unstable. It cannot stand upright on its own. Stability emerges only through constant adjustment by the rider, subtle steering corrections made almost unconsciously. Balance, they realized, was not something engineered away, but something actively controlled. That insight, born not in a laboratory, but in practical mechanical experience, would ultimately separate them from the world's leading scientists. While famous researchers pursued engines and structural strength, the Wright brothers immersed themselves in existing aviation knowledge, studying every available publication and carefully examining the work of German glider pioneer Otto Lilienthal, whose thousands of flights proved humans could glide, but also revealed the deadly consequences of inadequate control. The brothers began to suspect that aviation's central challenge was not lift or propulsion, but mastery of motion itself. Instead of treating flight as a single grand achievement, they divided it into three interconnected problems. Lift, the force that takes an aircraft up; thrust, the force that pushes it forward; and control, which provides balance. Lift appeared to be understood through established aerodynamic tables. Thrust could be achieved thanks to the existence of powerful engines used in automobiles at the time. Control, however, remained unsolved. How could a pilot balance a machine in unstable air the same way a cyclist balances on two wheels? One afternoon in their shop, Wilbur casually twisted a cardboard box and noticed that when opposite corners rotated, one side rose while the other dipped. The observation was simple enough to overlook, yet it sparked a breakthrough idea. Wings themselves could be twisted to control roll. Rather than forcing stability through rigid design, a pilot could actively command the aircraft. Wing warping was born not from theoretical mathematics, but from mechanical intuition. an elegant solution emerging from curiosity rather than prestige. The brothers traveled to the remote dunes of Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, in 1900 and again in 1901, selecting the location not for convenience, but for steady winds, forgiving sand, and isolation from public scrutiny. Their early gliders performed disappointingly, producing far less lift than predicted by accepted scientific data. Months of exhausting effort seemed wasted, and during the journey home, Wilbur reportedly remarked that human flight might not occur for 1,000 years. Yet instead of abandoning the project, they questioned the foundation of aviation science itself. Back in Dayton, they constructed a homemade wind tunnel inside their bicycle shop, a wooden box powered by a fan, and began conducting systematic experiments with extraordinary discipline. Hundreds of tests followed, examining more than 200 wing designs, each measured carefully rather than judged by intuition. Their results revealed a startling truth. Decades of aerodynamic data used by engineers worldwide were wrong. Lift coefficients have been miscalculated, leading nearly every aviation pioneer toward flawed designs. Two mechanics working after hours had corrected the mathematics guiding an entire scientific field. While the Wright brothers quietly refined understanding, Langley pursued spectacle. His great aerodrome was large, ambitious, and publicly funded, launched from a catapult mounted on a houseboat in the Potomac River, before crowds of journalists eager to witness history. In October 1903, the machine was released, only to collapse instantly and crash into the water. Newspapers that once praised the project quickly turned critical. A second attempt in December ended the same way, with the aircraft failing before it ever truly flew. Years of national expectation dissolved into public embarrassment. Langley had attempted to leap directly to success under immense pressure, while the Wright brothers continued their incremental experiments unnoticed by almost everyone. On December 17, 1903, there were no cheering spectators, no politicians, and no scientific dignitaries present at Kitty Hawk. Only cold wind, shifting sand, and 5 witnesses stood nearby as Orville Wright lay prone within the flyer. The engine roared to life. The machine accelerated along its track, and for 12 brief seconds, humanity achieved powered, controlled flight, traveling 120 feet before touching down. Later that morning, Wilbur flew even farther, remaining airborne for 59 seconds and covering 852 feet. The moment that transformed human transportation occurred quietly, almost privately. A telegram announcing success was sent home, yet many newspapers ignored the claim, and some editors dismissed it outright as fantasy. One of the greatest technological breakthroughs in history passed largely unnoticed. The brothers understood that brief hops were only the beginning. Returning to Dayton, they refined their aircraft away from publicity, practicing turns, circles, and sustained flight until by 1905, they could remain airborne for nearly 40 minutes, navigating miles under full control. Flight was no longer an experiment. It was an operational technology. Recognition, however, did not arrive easily. After Langley's death, the Smithsonian Institution faced an uncomfortable reality. America's most celebrated scientific organization had been surpassed by 2 self-taught bicycle mechanics. In 1914, aviation pioneer Glenn Curtiss modified Langley's failed Aerodrome and briefly flew it, allowing the Smithsonian to display the aircraft as the first machine capable of powered flight, effectively rewriting history. Orville Wright responded with outrage, refusing to donate the original flyer to the institution and instead sending it to London in protest. For decades, the airplane that changed the world remained outside the United States, a silent reminder that institutions sometimes resist acknowledging disruptive outsiders. Only in 1942 did the Smithsonian formally recognize the Wright brothers' priority, allowing truth, eventually, to prevail. The Wright brothers did not succeed because they possessed superior resources. They succeeded because they approached innovation differently. Langley attempted to build a machine that would fly, while the Wrights developed a disciplined method for discovering why flight worked at all. They built small before building large, measured before believing, and treated every failure as information rather than defeat. Most importantly, they operated without constant scrutiny. There were no investors demanding timelines, no journalists expecting dramatic announcements, and no government officials evaluating progress. Their obscurity granted freedom. Freedom to experiment slowly, to revise assumptions, and to prioritize understanding over appearance. Years later, a memorial was raised at Kitty Hawk, bearing an inscription that captures the spirit of their achievement, in commemoration of the conquest of the air by the brothers Wilbur and Orville Wright. Conceived by genius, achieved by dauntless resolution and unconquerable faith, the words recognize something deeper than invention, the triumph of persistence over expectation. Today, billions of passengers travel by air each year, and flight feels inevitable, almost ordinary. Yet history invites a provocative question. What if the roles had been reversed? What if the United States government had funded the Wright brothers instead of Samuel Langley? Would oversight and national expectations have pushed them to rush development? Would pressure for visible progress have convinced them to skip the wind tunnel experiments that ultimately unlock success? Would they have constructed a massive aircraft prematurely simply to demonstrate advancement? Perhaps the greatest advantage a disruptive innovator can possess is not funding or recognition, but the rare privilege of being ignored long enough to learn slowly. Sometimes obscurity is not a weakness, but a protective space where fragile ideas can mature. Sometimes history changes, not because powerful institutions succeed, but because unknown individuals persist quietly until understanding catches up with ambition. Congratulations, you made it to the end. If you found this video valuable, please consider liking and sharing it with someone who would appreciate it. The Scout covers the ideas, the institutions, and the individuals behind the breakthroughs that shaped our world. And if that is something you're interested in, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you do not miss the next videos. The details in this video were based on the book, To Conquer the Air by James Tobin, and it is actually available online. That's all from us today. Thanks for watching. See you next time.